What is going on, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of Wildly Informed. Brett Marshall joined alongside by Isha Jerome. As always, not as upbeat of a show probably as last week with the Wildcats coming off two big victories when we recorded post Montreal Canadiens last week. Since then, shut out twice by the Senators and the Bruins. Some couple storylines from those games that we'll get to, but as we always do before we get into everything, Isha, how you doing tonight?
Good. Belly's full of Bricksworth pizza and beer, so can't complain. Shout out to our friends at Bricksworth, where we got some content coming out with them soon, guys, so stay tuned. And if you're listening on the podcast, incentive to come over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel, as well as all you watching on Brett's Twitter as well.
Yeah, wherever you're watching, we're happy you're here, but eventually make your way over to YouTube, because that's where all the cool stuff really lives. You get to see all the graphics and all the fun stuff, so it's a place to be.
Absolutely. And some watch parties with Brett soon.
Hopefully. Yeah, I was hoping to do one Saturday, and then between feeling sick and my internet deciding it wanted to be funky at like the most inconvenient time, we didn't get to it. But hopefully sometime in February or March, we'll do a Saturday game.
Hell yeah. Well, we got a jam-packed show here today, so where should we start?
Yeah, I think we'll start with our newest segment. We'll start with hockey headlines here. I think league-wide, one of the biggest storylines in the past week was we touched on this very briefly last week, and the first thing I thought of when I saw this news was like Isha Lilly brought up, is like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
and then sure enough, there it is.
There it is.
The NHL and the NHLPA came out with a joint statement that the salary cap will increase. Not that they're expecting it to increase, not that there's a chance it'll increase. It will increase significantly over the next 3 years. It's going to currently sitting at $88 million. It's going to jump up to 95.5 next year, 104 million in 26-27, and then a whopping 113.5 million in 2027-2028.
Big boy numbers, finally. Big four numbers, I should say. Which,
like, if you're like to put like how much money this is increasing. The current salary cap, as I mentioned, $88 million. By 2027, 2028, the lower limits, like the cap floor you have to be at, is going to be $83.9 million. So, like, whatever that is, about $5 million less. So one middle six player probably at that point is going to be the floor. The Wild right now, if you take out the Breeze and Suter buyouts, are paying $74 million to their players. So in 3 years, that payroll is going to go up by about whatever, that's like almost 200%, $40 million from in the next 3 years. So just crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of articles and stuff out there. Like if you're here, if you're not a Wild fan, we'll talk a little bit about some of the implications it'll have for the Wild a little bit later on. But there's a lot of articles out there about how it'll affect XYZ teams, how it'll affect the league as a whole. It'll be really interesting. Like I've heard even things like there are teams that have already kind of like discussed implementing an internal cap of like 100 million once it really starts to climb up there, because I mean, ultimately the owners have to pay out this money. Right. So really interesting, but I think from a Wild standpoint, I don't think this could have happened at probably a better time. Like you're at the
coming right out of cap hell and be like, sweet, now we can actually give Kaprizov whatever he wants, knowing that like the cap's just gonna go up, and it's like, and that particular contract won't even anchor them come 3 years.
Well, and I think to just be on Kaprizov too, like, and not to jump into pluck your opinions here too early, but just like getting able to pay him, but then also being able to pay, these other players, like we already seen, they're going to get, Faber's going to get paid. Does this, give you a little more certainty? Maybe you can sign a Marco Rossi now. Those types of deals where, hey, we can sort of lock in these younger players coming off these ELCs, whether it is to long-term extensions or these higher value bridge deals. It gives you a little more flexibility. Or if you do want to go trade routes and sign big name free agents, it gives them a lot of flexibility in that sense, which I think, and a lot of teams will. So I think it'll be really this year of free agent class in the summer, I'm going to be really interested to see, because the other thing too, because like to me, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week, was like a lot of the players and agents are going to think of this in terms of percent of the cap when it comes to what value they're getting. But when you're jumping from 9.5 to 104 to 113 over 3 years, like basically $10 million a season, like what becomes a new benchmark, and how do comparables work? Can you only compare now in the season that you're signing? Can you use a previous season? So all of that stuff is going to get really interesting. love it from the league perspective. Like, hopefully we'll see if it creates. I'm interested to see if it creates separation. Like, will these smaller market teams that have these internal caps just be bad longer? Like, will it go a baseball route where just these top teams that are spending, or how will it all play out? It's going to follow here over the next couple of years, how this all plays out.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be some changes. Some trends are going to be different. We might see more, I don't want to say like more three-way trades, but more blockbuster trades now. And I don't want to say like NBA level, so we're never going to see anything like that. But, we might see some movement with bigger guys who, now teams actually have cap to, okay, we can take that on, versus today, this era where like these big trades is not really that possible unless you get other teams involved.
Yeah, it's it'll be really fun, I think, as from a fan perspective, just to see, like, hopefully, as you pointed out, like, it does make for hopefully some more trades or more exciting free agency. Like, to be fair, like the NHL, like the trade deadline this year is probably going to stink, but we've had some like pretty notable trades in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like we talked about the Flyers and Flames one, like I think live on the show. Vancouver did a little wheeling and dealing.
A lot of wheeling and dealing for not much of a return, but that's okay.
Yeah,
love Marcus Pettersson, yay! But
I didn't realize how
losing JT to the Rangers. I mean, bro.
Yeah, for a okay return, but when you're taking on $8 million in cap, like I think that unfortunately, does factor in a little bit. You factor in, the alleged some of the attitude issues, the cap hit, the age, like all that stuff. Like you're probably not.
My thing with the age is like he didn't play an elevated role until like 27, 28.
Right.
And so, like, there's just naturally, like, less wear and tear, I think. And it's not like he's been injury-riddled throughout his career. So I think he's going to be one of those guys who, I'm not saying, like, he's going to be like Joe Pavelski, but he might play and continue to produce later in his career just because, like, with sports science and, like, recovery methods and stuff these days, like, and, like, I pro recovery over, like, surgery, but, like, how quickly guys can recover from surgeries these days as well with these, like, quick ones that aren't as invasive, like, he, without having gone under the knife a lot and thus far, like, I don't know, even with small injuries and stuff like that, I think he'll be able to continue to produce well into his 30s. But
so far so good. He's 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, and a +1, averaging 18.5 minutes a night. Dude,
Canucks
in his
Twitter
first
was going,
2 games. So
Canucks Twitter was going nuts because as soon as he was traded, they're like, "Oh yeah, look how good JT's doing," and "Oh, look at Pettersson, I'm -2 with an elevated 2 more minutes on the top line, yay."
Well, then wasn't there, I forget who said it, but there was a pretty big media hockey personality was like Vancouver traded the wrong guy or
there's
like
3
that,
Petterssons
so.
on the team now, so
yeah, there's the affinity gauntlet of Petterssons, so I don't know.
Look, I like Elias Pettersson. It's just this last year and a half have been kind of rough and like very different, and the only common denominator is Talkit. So it's like, oh man, we finally brought a coach in where it's like seemingly everybody is bought in, but one of the star players hasn't, and that
right. Well, especially it's like how successful they were going to the playoffs last year. Like I think we talked at one point on here about like if Demko's healthy, is it Vancouver?
They beat Edmonton.
Is Vancouver in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, they at least would have gotten past Edmonton for sure, but yeah, dude, crazy stuff with the salary cap. Like I said, it's so funny that I was like, I'm not gonna believe this until I see it. And I was expecting not to see it quite frankly, until like the off season. But exciting stuff as the NHL is going to shift a little bit in trends and whatnot. One thing I want to just add in, big shout out to Alex Ovechkin, one of my favorite hockey players of all time. 17 goals away from Wayne Gretzky's record right now, Brett. And it's like, I don't want to say he dipped in performance, but like started to show his age. And with all the images of him playing volleyball this offseason that surfaced, what you looking at my gut for? I did not expect him to be scoring and producing at the pace that he is at right now and continues to maintain this season. Like, I believe it was like the first 25 or 30 games, he was scoring at I think it was like 90
Yeah, it was an insane pace to start.
Yeah, it was like insane pace, like not like I think it was like 0.95 freaking goals per game, which was more than I think his second season. So when he was still like early 20s, where he scored 46 in 82 games. Like he was scoring at a higher pace than in his early 20s, and he's 39 years of age. And right now he has a whopping 25 goals in 37 games, 39 points, so still over a point per game. And I know, like, you know, Brett rolls his eyes at plus minus, but like, hey, when it goes from -22 last year to a +17 this year, and the team actually like doing well and he's contributing, you know, like a 30-goal season to Ovechkin is not a great season. Where he's gonna get in the 40s this year.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like I think you kind of looked at right, like you saw like there was the kind of the 21-22 he puts up 50 and then 42, and then last year right you see the big drop off like down to 31. It was like, the Capitals might now be in the rebuild, and
they just snuck into the playoffs. Like they had no business being there.
Are we gonna come up short? Like, is he gonna retire all this stuff? And then all of a sudden, like this year, he looks like rejuvenated. Like, I think to your point, I think his scoring pace, I think it was like the second highest since that 07-08 season.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think it's at that now. He's not on pace for 65.
No, it was like in the first 20 or 30 games where it was just like, dude, he can't stop scoring. And it's, you know what's crazy? It's like, it's in the same goddamn spot. Like, we joke about it's Ovi's office, but it's like nobody is either covering him there. Like, the play just draws the attention to that opposite circle, and he's there every single time. And like, you can see the goalie like almost visibly shaking at the pads, being like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, please don't cross, please don't cross. And as soon as that puck gets to his stick, it's like, damn it.
It's almost like, do you just play a 4-on-3 and just just go man on man with Ovi and let the other 4 guys try to beat your other 3 guys? I don't know, but yeah, so it's whatever. He needs 17 over the last 29 games, so like it's a little over half a goal per game. So if he scores every other night from here on out, he probably hits it. Barring
and you got to imagine
so.
That like even like obviously like the Capitals are in a little bit of a playoff run right now.
I think they're the best team in the league, aren't they?
What are
they're second behind Winnipeg.
That's
but
crazy.
they have 2 games in hand and only are 2 points behind. So
that's actually crazy.
They have the best points percentage in the NHL right now.
So that's absolutely insane because they're way more in a playoff run than I thought. But no, yeah, actually, I just pulled up their season right now. They're doing good, and it's like it's by committee as well. Like no one's really like absolutely standing out. Like 42 points for Pierre-Luc Dubois, which good turnaround for him. This random Belarusian Protas, 22 goals, 45 points, and then Dylan Strome having a great season, 51 and 50.
Where did this Protas guy come from? Yeah,
20. The Washington Capitals only draft friggin' Belarusians and Russians. I'm telling you.
29 points in 78 games last year, playing 13.45 a night, and now 22 goals, 23 assists, 45 points in a +30 in 53 games this year. So like, dude's on that Marco Rossi breakout.
Yeah, so like they're actually like scoring by committee as well, which is something they were not doing last year.
Yeah, well, they're getting phenomenal goaltending too. I mean, you look at their goaltending tandem. Logan Thompson's lost 6 of his 30 games he's played in this year, only twice in regulation. And then even when your backup has a winning record and has a 2.69 .903 and Minnesota native Charlie Lindgren. I mean, they're just all the right pieces are in place, and you got to give a lot of credit. Is it Spencer Carberry? I think is their coach. He's done like that's. I mean, this is Jack. I mean, this is a Jack. I mean, if he's not the Jack Adams, I don't know that the award should go away if he doesn't, unless they have a monumental collapse somehow and miss the playoffs. But
yeah,
he seems like the shoe-in for me.
What's crazy is like I didn't think the team A would be this good.
No,
nor did I think they were going to be that much better than they were last year.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd be a playoff team.
No, and furthermore, last year when we kind of saw like, okay, if he's going to only really get 25, maybe 30, because he realistically only really like lit it up towards the end of the season. He was struggling early and had like he didn't miss that many games, but a couple games of injury. I was like, okay, he is going to probably play out that contract and then just sign like year by year until he gets the record. And I projected 2 years, 3 max. Well, it's the next season. It is this season. He's gonna hit it. Dude, it's gonna be crazy to see where the Capitals will be when he is nearing like realistically that number. Like, are they going to be on the road? Are they going to be at home? Like, Ted Leon's is just like licking his chops, hoping, praying that it's going to be at home because they're going to jack up those ticket prices a little bit.
Yeah,
it's going to be legendary. Sure. But even on the road, like you got to think that like if he's like 1, 2, even 3 away. Right, if he's 3 away, the boys are gonna, they're in such a good position right now that they're gonna try to get him those goals late in games, right? They're gonna lean to that a little bit, and it's gonna be crazy to see what market benefits even just from that last week. Say there's 3 games like that week, and they're on the road. Like it's like almost like a lottery at that point,
right?
For that market. Aren't they in Minnesota in the spring?
That's what I'm looking up right now. I was trying to go to TickPick, but I think I have to find the date first. Oops. Let's see.
Good to see you, by the way. Blue Creed, Urban, Andrew, Hockey from Home.
Yeah.
Integrity. Good to see you guys in the chat.
Dude, March
We've gone down an OV rabbit hole. Sorry, we'll get to Wild Talk in a sec.
March 27th. It's their 5th to last game of the season.
That's
like it could happen in Minnesota. And honestly, like with as much as he's victimized the Wild historically, like it would be fitting.
Oh yeah.
But
that's wild.
We can hang a banner. Ovi broke Gretzky's record in this rink. We can get
honestly,
a good banger to hang. But like I don't know if like I hope people understand like just how unbelievably impressive it is that he's even like flirting with this record. Because you look at the amount of goals per game back when Gretzky played, they scored a ton.
It was it was stupid. This is like a way harder league to score in, and he's still putting up 40 and 50. Like
he is like I think regardless like barring unfortunately some career-ending injury or something, like even if he doesn't break the record, he is in my opinion without a doubt the greatest goal scorer of all time.
And it's not close. And he has a Stanley Cup. He's got an Olympic gold medal. I don't know if he's got a World Junior. I don't know if he's got a junior medal, but still, like represented World Juniors. How many World Championships, right? Like he's done it all. Famer. And he said like once he breaks Gretzky's record, I don't know. Who knows how much longer he stays in the NHL? Because he did say he wants to retire and play at least 1 season in Dynamo in the KHL, like the team where he developed.
Yeah.
But what an absolute beat. Like I said, he's one of my favorite players of all time. Absolutely electric. Even at this stage, all gray and beer bellied up. Apparently the coaches have been on him this year, Brett. And like, I'm not even like joking here. Like, no Dr. Pepper in his water bottle this season. Like they're like, no, you're getting up there in age. You came in camp looking like you did. No Dr. Pepper, and dare I say, it's doing wonders.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got?
We'll do the Wild stuff last here. We'll follow up on another topic that we covered either last week, or the week before. We talked about the IAHF potentially allowing Russia and Belarus to compete again soon. They met, as you mentioned, that they would. And decided to extend the ban through the end of next year. So, with the
World Championship, likely no World Juniors.
Yep. So I think it was through 2026 is what it said. Yeah. So I think that would include the World Juniors in Minnesota. So no Russia there in St. Paul. Again, if you want to hear kind of our takes on it, we talked I think for probably like 5 minutes just on our thoughts on it. It's either on the last episode or the previous one.
I think it's on episode 13 or 12.
Yeah, so a couple episodes back. Feel free to check that out. But that was that. Another big story, this one in the division. Miro Heiskanen is out month to month after knee surgery. Shitty for hockey. I always say like hockey's better when the best players are playing and not injured.
And he is like one of the best in the National Hockey League.
Yeah,
he's insane,
phenomenal. Yeah. Matches up really well into the Wild's offense, that's for sure. And on that note, like I think if you're looking at the slight Wild angle to this, like you look at Colorado has traded away Rantanen, Minnesota's lost Kaprizov, Dallas has Heiskanen out till month to month. So like at least we're not alone in being without one of our best players.
True.
We're probably less equipped to handle being without our best player.
I mean, still over 500 without him. We might be getting close to 500 now. Actually, with these last two.
Now. Yeah.
Look, the Senators lost, by the way. Like, you won 2 in a row on the road, back to back. Like, a loss was bound to happen. It was just like in the fashion in which it happened, obviously.
Right.
But the next game, that one hurt a little bit.
Yeah. So maybe that allows the Wild to stay in the mix. We'll see. But pretty notable there, and obviously. A big blow for Finland at the Four Nations too, because that team that was already weak basically arguably lost their best player that they would have had in that tournament. So, and then they
just need some Russians to pretend that they're Finns for this. And since the IHF, might not be poking around, and it's an NHL tournament first and foremost.
Well, it's like Barkov sounds like he's a Russian, but he's actually a Finn. Like, there's probably some others out there like that. But the last hockey headline here, not a big secret on this one at all. Most wild related here, Ryan Hartman got handed down a massive 10-game suspension for an intent to injure of Tim Stützle. We'll dive into a little bit whether or not we think that's deserved on Puck Your Opinions, but basically, like, the gist of the news, announced tonight, just before we hopped on, that he will appeal this suspension. So how that works is now it's going to go to Gary Bettman. He'll have the opportunity to uphold or lower the suspension or reduce it, whatever he sees fit. If he upholds, I believe it's 6 or more games. So if it gets dropped from 10 to 7, it can from there go to independent arbitration, which usually by the time that happens, this is according to Russo, that the suspension's pretty much done. But because of the Four Nations break,
they might
his case could potentially be heard sooner than it typically would, or at least in terms of games missed.
So it's like you might as well do it just in case.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason. Like, I might as well try here. Forfeit about $500,000 in salary as well. And of course that just further handicaps the Wild's salary cap situation because his cap still has to count. They can't bury that. They can't LTIR it. Like, it's 10 games now where that's basically just additional dead cap that they have to deal with now. So really unfortunate, pretty stupid play. Like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Like, obviously ticked about the slasher and the embellishment, and those two were kind of getting into it all night, but you got to keep your head.
Slamming someone's face into the ice. It's like, you can't do that. as that ref would say.
Yeah. So like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about whether we think the 10 games is warranted a little bit later in the show. So we'll table that, a little teaser there for you. And up next, we'll head into the analytics agenda.
Oh, you teed me up so good there, and I wasn't ready. Analytics agenda.
So in minor Wild news today, the Wild claimed Vinni Hinistroza off waivers from the Nashville Predators. Just want to do a quick little look at what the Wild are getting in Hinistroza. First and foremost, it's not a huge acquisition. This isn't a guy that's like going into the top 6, ain't a guy that's going to like break open and be like a game-changing type of player. But, he's been a player. I'm kind of interested to see how he does in Minnesota, because if you look at kind of his career where he's played, started off in Chicago, like post when their team started to just fall into the garbage. Arizona, their really bad years. Florida, and I think one of their bad years. Back to Chicago, 2 years in Buffalo.
He's only played for bad teams. Then Pittsburgh when they were meh as well.
Yeah, Pittsburgh last year when they were meh, and then Nashville this year, who's also been like pretty pedestrian. So small sample. At 15 games there, it's actually 13 games so far. So type on my part on that. But like the numbers in those 13 games like don't look horrible. Fourth, that's like probably fourth-ish line minutes. That's all situations. So I'm not sure if this is a guy that plays much on the penalty kill. I actually can probably look at that real quick because that's one area where maybe he can contribute.
And in seasons where he's played over 50 games, he has he can score 16 in 72 games, 13 in 62. So not bad. Yeah. Career high with the Coyotes in 19 where he got 39 points. So.
Yeah, like I don't think it's a bad player to take a shot on. Like I think you look at when you're rolling out Devin Shore and Brendan Gaunce and some of these fourth line guys, like they were fine. And then obviously Jacob Lauko back on injured reserve today. Yeah. So
they need a body who can play the bottom 6, and you're basically getting this guy for nothing. So
yeah, and I think that's exactly what he is. Right? I think he's going to be a good bottom 6 forward. But, and those numbers are respectable for a pretty mediocre Nashville team, like a fourth liner that's controlling 54% of your expected goals. Like if this team gets healthy and it's Trenyan and Huzadinov on that line again, or however they balance things out, like, is he going to be a guy that's going to turn them into a scoring line? No, but is he a guy that can maybe help play with a little bit more pace, help drive, at least maybe a forecheck or help break some pucks out of the zone, stay in the offense a little bit longer? Sure. So
And his goals against, like his goals against, like his plus minus two is not. It's not bad. It always kind of hovers around 0, which
especially like when you're playing on bad teams.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm bringing it up too, right? Because like it's if you look at that, that's where that stat kind of stands out. When you look at like bad Chicago, bad Arizona, bad year for Florida, bad just Buffalo, and he's still kind of just hanging around 0, and even there was one year where it was like minus 11, but again he played a lot more that year as well.
Yeah, and that was for Buffalo when they were garbage. So
yeah, absolute trash. And he still and he put up like 25 points that year. So shout out.
Yeah. So again, like, is it going to be a Declan Chisholm type of sneaky pickup? I don't think so, but I think these are the kind of waiver claims I think that makes sense to make. A pretty low risk, like if it's a guy you got to throw on waivers again, and maybe he's just here for the 10-game Hartman suspension and then he's back on waivers himself, whatever. But hopefully a guy that can just step in and just be a healthy body that the Wild can have and maybe rely on to eat up some bottom 6 minutes.
Dude, he's probably pumped because he's like, oh my god, like an actual team.
I get to go play for
a winning team
for once. Yeah,
let's go.
He probably thought he was getting that in Nashville. So I really don't know. I didn't look too much on the.
That's true.
I didn't look too much on the Nashville side of things as to why they waived him. Like I didn't dive into that too much, but
I think they're just like about to clean house, which is crazy to think about given what they did this offseason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, clean house with everyone who they're not stuck with. Since we're still in like the analytics segment of the show, there's one thing I wanted to bring up in the last segment, but like I said, you set me up way too perfect for this one, and I didn't add it to our outline, so that's on me. But I mean, like, what are the odds? What's the percentage, Brett, that we ever see a player at the age of 52 still scoring in pro hockey?
I mean, it could be Ovi.
I mean, it could be. Yeah, I guess so.
Like, if there's anyone that would do it, I feel like it'd be Ovi. But
dude, Jaromir Jagr is still doing it. Is still doing it for the team that he owns, manages, and helps sometimes coach as well. Fighting through injuries this season as he was training too hard in the offseason with Pasternak and crew. Still scoring, man.
Jaromír Jágr. Jágrová na gól! Jaromír Jágr střílí svůj další gól v rámci tohoto
Unbelievable.
Pátá přesná trefa 52letého
52 is just nuts.
Oh man, now it's like it's the Division 2 Czech League. And his team was having a hard time like selling tickets, so he decided to get back on the ice because he didn't play much last year. He had to play last year, Brett, because the team was so injury riddled. They didn't have enough players to ice, so he had to play a few games last year out of shape. Trained this summer, hurt himself before camp, hamstring injury. He even said, like, I was putting on the weights again and training too hard with Pasternak and the boys, like NHL players, but got himself back into shape and has actually been playing pretty well this season, which, I mean, for 52, it doesn't really matter if you play well or not. But, I mean, 13 points in 31 games, 5 goals.
Yeah, playing pro hockey 52, and then nonetheless, like, just a shade under, whatever is it, like half a point a game? Like, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, actually, and this one's actually for the Division 1. My bad. He has played for the Kladno Knights in the Division 2. But, no, keeping them above relegation. So, there you go. Just unbelievable. And he has said that he thinks this is his last year, but like kind of like at the end of Teemu Solani's run, like he's saying that every year. Like we'll see if he has that itch again next year. But no, shout out to Jaromír Jagr, man, putting up like insane numbers in pro hockey. It's wild.
Absolutely. All right, we have some opinions here to state now.
Let's get to it.
I just want to say,
Puck.
Your opinion.
By the way, shout out to everyone last week for all your hot takes and opinions. That was a lot of fun, and we're going to do that more often.
Yeah, I think we'll try to do it like once a month, maybe.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
But send them to us. There, like if you're for like a hot take, just send it. We'll bookmark it. We'll come back. We'll get it in the doc.
Yeah. So always, whether it's the Wildly Informed Twitter account, Brett or myself, maybe just like tag Wild or Hot Take or Wildly Informed or something, or even just say this is for the show and give us your hot take.
Yeah. Well, our hot take for this evening is we talked a little bit about Ryan Hartman and his suspension. So I wanted to get your thoughts because I don't know if we've talked much about this one-on-one yet. So my thoughts are out there a little bit on Twitter, but 10-game suspension, like pretty lengthy when you look at kind of what DOPS has done for some other suspensions this year, like some plays that maybe at the surface looked maybe a little bit more egregious. I mean, even like the, Zachary Lajero hit on Jared Spurge, like that's probably more dangerous than what Hartman did, but 10 games, what he got handed down. Some reasoning behind it from the video. This is the 5th time he's been suspended in his career.
That's the thing. It's the repeat offender
and it's
is huge.
4th time since April of 2023, which if you average that out, he's getting suspended once every 60 games he plays in. So those are factors that went into it, but your thoughts on a 10-game suspension?
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't suspended already now 5 times, and like you pointed out, it wasn't all kind of recently, if it was very sporadically throughout his career, because he's been in the NHL for a while now, right? If it was like once every few years,
right,
then I think you look at that and you say, okay, yeah, he's a repeat offender, but like we don't have to slap 10 because it's not like he's doing this all the time. But it's like he kind of is known league-wide on the ice and in, hardcore hockey fan base now as like a friggin' rat, right? And though I didn't like that play, it's dirty as fuck. Like, I'm not surprised that the player who would have employed that move is Ryan Hartman from the Minnesota Wild, right? Because like Foligno's tough and mean, but he's not dirty. No. Ryan Hartman's tough and mean and dirty.
Yeah. Like
so for me, it's the repeat offender, but furthermore, it's like you said, in the last 2 years, this is 4 of those suspensions and just the way he plays and everything too. Not that should go into it, but if you're especially going to go to arbitration, like the NHL is going to be all right. Look at everything here, sir. Watch some. Maybe you didn't get dinged for that one, or the ref missed it, but like we know the type of player you are, and and I think the biggest thing is like it's not separated by a few years each suspension.
No, and there's probably others where he could have gotten a little bit more too, like the high stick off the face-off on Cole Perfetti in Winnipeg last year.
Yeah.
In retaliation to Kaprizov getting injured by Brendan Dillon, accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, which like I'm totally fine with that shit being in the game, as you know, but like it's,
and then
Urban Sayer, he's almost twice this season.
And then of course, obviously a couple weeks ago, he kind of kicks out Leon Draisaitl's feet, so it sucks to see, because I was talking about this with a couple folks on Twitter tonight after I was tweeting out some player cards about. Someone pointed out just how consistent Foligno had been. Cat, shout out number 1 Foligno fan out there. And someone had pointed out like Hartman's been similar, and kind of did my research for me, and like he has been really consistent. And I think we talked early in the year about how the penalties had cleaned up for him. I campaigned for his offense trending in the right direction since Christmas time. But you could almost just sort of feel this coming in a way, like just the emotions for him were starting to boil over. Maybe some of the frustrations from, not scoring as much as he'd like. And the team struggling on top of it. And I think the emotions got the best of him in this case. And, it stinks to have a guy like that out of the lineup because, you're essentially Vinni Hinistroza's replacement now, if you want to look at it that way, or it's Devin Shore, or like however you want to frame his replacement. That's a downgrade no matter what. And for a team, kind of in a little bit of a slide, struggling to find their footing, a little inconsistent, missing their best player. Like the last thing they needed was for him to go out and lose his cool. And we'll see what happens with his appeal. But just given his track record, and I think the league has shown with some players like Marchand and Tom Wilson, like when you do really finally throw the book at a player, it does seem to sometimes wake them up a little bit, as we saw.
Unless your name is Rafi Torres.
Yeah,
he just goes, you gave me 20 games? All right, let's try to get 30, bitch.
Yeah, that's new benchmark.
Loved Rafi Torres, but yeah, he was a dirtbag as well. Though he was a dirtbag and played, played a dirty game, and I'd say more so a physical game, but still a dirty game. He's one that, like, he was on the Vancouver Canucks, and I loved him, right? He's one that I'm like, okay, and same Burrows was on the Vancouver Canucks, I loved him. But if he was still on like a different team, I think I would still like their play too. The only player in the NHL that was on a team that I root for, and a team that I cover here in the Minnesota Wild now, who I will never root for, no ever respect, is Matt Cook, man. Fuck Matt Cook.
Like, I always like when people try to bring that up, and we're like, hey, none of us liked that. Like, Colorado fans like, oh, did you say that about Matt Cook? We're like, yeah, we did, because like we actually hold our players accountable, and that was stupid and dirty, and like can't help it. It happened while he was with the Wild. Like we didn't ask for that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But-
you know, like Burrow's biting, you know, someone's ear, like whatever. That I can, you know, that I can live with. But Matt Cook, you know, going for the Achilles, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So TLDR here, I think 10 games is fair. I don't see it getting overturned. I think he's going to have to sit out the 10 games. There's a reason I put Ryan Hartman does something outrageous on the bingo card for the season long, because usually he does. And sure
And here
enough,
it is.
he does that. Got us our first bingo of the year. So if you follow along with that.
And it was a Tim Stützle. Like, this isn't even a Vander Kane. Like, what are you doing, brother? Like, what?
Yeah, at least make it worth it, right? If
Not
you're
even,
doing that.
not even Brady Tkachuk. Like, what did he say to piss you off so much? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
or were you just being like, I'm winning this goddamn face-off? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see what happens. I don't know when all the appeals and stuff actually happen, but I would imagine probably before they come back from the Four Nations, we'll know if that was upheld. But for now, no Hartman for the future.
I could see at I don't think it's gonna change. I think if it does, like he's
It's
not
like
getting,
2
he's not
games or
getting,
something.
he's not getting less than 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. There we go.
And then the other thing we talked about off the hop that we'll talk a little about here, back to the salary cap conversation, and just kind of knowing this now, like we've thrown out like theoretical, we think this might be Kaprizov's floor for his next deal, but now we have a firm like cap. Now we know what the number is going up to. So I think the number we threw around last time was like, I think we said a floor was like 14 million.
Yeah.
Has that changed for you knowing this information now, or where do you think, do they just back up the Bing truck, and if he says 18 million, they're like, all right, sold? Like,
I think the floor has risen now because we're still talking about the floor and not like the ceiling or, you know, a happy medium. I think the floor went up to 15.5, like a million and a half, but the ceiling went up like potentially $3 million. Because now, because there's a projected showing of what the numbers are going to be down the road versus it just going up X amount and then just like sticking there, right? Or like then plateauing again. Now that's like, no, it's going up and up and up, and like here it is. It's like, okay, we can go above and beyond what we thought we could before because of this now. But if we can still get you at, you know, 15.5 plus friggin' bonuses up the freaking wazoo, then, you know, we'll obviously try to do that. But I think for the most part, Wild management are okay at this point, giving him whatever the hell he wants. And because it's just legendary, you know, it's a legend status. It's legendary status at this point as well, right? It's like this team actually has somewhat of a plan, you know, brewing. They're competitive this year with and without him. The haul of prospects that Judd Brackett has been able to amass, like we haven't even seen these plants grow yet. Like the seeds are planted. We haven't even seen like what even half of these guys can be yet.
Right.
And it's starting now / next season, right? With like, you know, Rossi this year. I imagine Ogren, Yurov, maybe even Riley Height, or maybe even, you know, maybe our other height, maybe the other height down, you know, in the AHL takes a step up. Like there's a plan here where I think Kaprizov, more than maybe even last year, well, clearly more than last year, is going to be like, okay. And I keep missing Brock Faber, but I don't even count him as a prospect anymore.
Yeah.
he's an established guy, but still young talent. Like there's a future to win here. There's a future to get paid here. And like, there's that comfortability factor, right? And they can say, look, we can keep Zuccarello on the books now until he retires.
Right.
No issue.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think, like, as much as he probably like would like that, I don't think that's a thing he's gonna get in there and like, hey, like, I'm not extending unless Zuki extends.
Dude,
right?
I don't know, man. Crosby's gotten in there for his boy Jack Johnson, so
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so like, I think to your point, like, yeah, I do think that floor maybe hasn't changed much, but I do think that ceiling is a lot higher. If you look at that 104, which will be when the extension would kick in, if it's a $14 million contract, doing my quick maths here, you're looking at about 13.5% of the cap. And then would you say higher, 3 million more, so 17, I think was your kind of higher end there. That goes up to like 16.33%. So I think that's a pretty fair range. Like I think
that's what he was gonna get if the cap stayed, you know, percent wise anyways.
Yeah. So I think I still maintain. I think the conversation we had a little bit when the Rantanen trade happened is Rantanen's number. I think will be a good starting point. Like I think you look at, you know, two players very important to their team, but they both play the wing. similar in terms of
I think
production.
Krill's gonna get more. Like assuming Carolina's
he will, but I
Yeah.
think like that's gonna set the new floor, and it'll probably be within $1 million to $2 million of whatever that number comes in.
Yeah, because like whatever number comes in, the agents on Kaprizov's side is going to be like, yeah, well, he's on a playoff team, like a right now playoff team. He had to take a little bit of a cut to be here, right? We are the team. Like Kaprizov is the Wild, like, and like I don't care what the number is as long as he's here.
Yeah,
and like if injuries hurt him a few games here and there every season, like it's fucking hockey, guys. Like it's gonna happen.
So few players play 82 games every year.
That's what I'm saying. Like let's hope that he doesn't. This isn't like a trend, right? But like for what he's shown, and some right as far as being just like the new face of this franchise, and will go down as one of not only the best player to ever play in Minnesota, but like one of the best Russians to play.
Ever,
right?
Yeah.
Again, at the end of his career with. It's and even what he's done in the KHL and on the international scene. It's crazy because he came into the NHL a little bit later. I think a lot of people who just follow the NHL like overlook like what he did in the K. Like he was an absolute superstar in the KHL, in the second best league on the planet as well.
Yeah, that was like the golden goal when they were like the Olympic athletes of Russia or whatever they were. Like he has like, and that's why I was go back to. Like, he's not a playoff performer. He doesn't perform in big moments. I'm like, this guy has done it in the KHL playoffs. He's done it on the international stage. Like the Wild just
World
didn't put a team
Championships,
around him.
U18, U20, like
and like his first playoffs is like a point per game, and like they always point to like the one series. I think it was the Vegas series where he had like one assist or whatever. It was like the dude was like playing at like 70% health, like
under like a system that every coach could figure out real quick to shut him down in playoffs.
Yes, like I'll take the historical success over like what is likely a 1-year anomaly. So
I don't know if he set a points record. I think he set for like the KHL, but I think he set a CSKA record. Like I think he set like a season scoring record for them. I think it was not the year they won, but I think it was the year after, because he was like over point per game. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a treat to watch him both on TV and live, because it's always everything's always sped up and it's just magnified when you're there, and like there's not a bad seat at the X, so it's like it's great.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be a fun thing to monitor. Like I said, I think being able to have this conversation now, where going from will he sign at all to we're pretty confident he signs now. We just don't know what the number is.
Yeah,
like
what's the number?
I feel in a much better spot than what we were a couple months ago. But yeah, so that'll be a big story here down the stretch. As we get toward July 1, because I think that's the first date that they can extend him. I think that's when that date kicks in. So one thing I'll be curious about, like I almost wonder like if Rossi's extended and that happens before July 1. So, like, if Rossi's extended before July 1 or traded, Kaprizov is, like, they have it in writing of what that number is going to be. So, like, if nothing happens with Rossi, I don't think they know the number yet. So that's kind of my gut feel.
Do you think Minnesotans party harder on July 1st when Kaprizov gets signed, or do you still think it's when Suter and Parise were signed? Because I heard, like, I can speak from not my perspective, but Hoppy told me some stories that July 1st was fucking lit when they heard that news.
Yeah, so my dad and I have a tradition. We usually golf the morning of 4th of July, and I had to come back, and I was, like, getting ready to get into the shower. Like, I just turned the shower on, and, like, I had my phone out, and I checked the alerts. And, like, I read the alert, and at the time, 2012, I would have been... to give a little more perspective, so it doesn't seem too outrageous. But I would have my.
I was 1 year out of high school, because we're like I think we're both the same age. So for me, it was my first year out of high school. I was in Canada, so like it was just a work day for me, and I was a hockey nerd, so I was just like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I was 16 that summer, and I literally like was so excited and had so much adrenaline. I didn't know what to do. Like I screamed. And then I'm not kidding, I went outside and ran laps around my house for like 5 minutes, like cheering. Like it was like, we got him, like, holy shit. Like it was the biggest day easily in Minnesota Wild history.
Yeah.
So
And I get where Urban's coming. I get where Urban's coming from too. But like at the time, it was like the next 2 years are playoff run because we got Parise, who was an 80 to 90 point player before coming over to the Wild.
And I'll tell you this about that. Like when people say like, "Oh, it was a massive deal. They overpaid." Like if any other team that was in the mix at that time, like they would have taken that deal 10 out of 10 times if it would have been for their team. Like hindsight, it worked out for them in the end. Like, obviously Wild never got any cups out of it. And, now they're stuck with a dead cap in the long term. But
they had some damn good seasons. It seems like there wasn't a payoff because nothing happened in the playoffs, which maybe you could say that is the payoff, Isha. We didn't get one.
Well, I think you just look from it changed Minnesota because they were in such of this funk of they were the kind of this bad team and they were boring and no one wanted to play for them anymore and there was no exciting.
Weren't developing many draft picks, or if they were, they weren't staying. Like
at that time, it was kind of like I think it would have been that when it was like Koivu, Brodin, and you had kind of this somewhat exciting young.
Burns
core.
wasn't even with the team anymore.
No,
or maybe it was like right at the end.
So it made Minnesota now a destination for free agents. It sold tickets. It sold merch. Like it built the Wild. It helped them get to where they are now. I think. We can. It's easy to look back on hindsight. Like, it was such a terrible idea, and this is all the cost. But at the time, like there was not a Wild fan in the world that was mad at the time that happened. So
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, to get back to the question.
To get back to the question, like I don't think I'll freak out as much more because I'm expecting it at this point, and I think like I don't. It's got
to be like a relief, a celebratory relief.
Yeah, and I think like it'll probably be like the third-ish best moment for me, probably behind when they announced that he was like finally coming over, and like the debut, like the overtime winner in game one, like all of kind of that, like my buddy Justin Bakke, who I did some of the podcast, like had the Kaprizov countdown,
love it,
Twitter account. Like I think to me that was a little bit more
that Kaprizov even followed.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah. That he followed because like Kaprizov, and I think he only followed like 5 accounts on Twitter. It was like the Wild PR. I think like Russo, like Elliot Friedman, and then
maybe
like,
the KHL.
Countdown. Yeah, and like the Kaprizov countdown. So that was
cool. That was cool.
So yeah.
Oh hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. I wasn't even living in Minnesota yet, but I was like such a crazy hockey nerd that I was listening to highlight reels of WHL while painting because I just wanted hockey content. And I was like, I'll just imagine what it looked like based off the commentary. Like there you go. I was obsessed, dude. So yeah, as soon as that news hit, I was a fan of Suter because of his play in Nashville. Like Shea Weber is one of my favorite hockey players of all time. And just that duo in Nashville. I've never seen a defensive duo shut down the Sedin so easily, right?
Yeah, they were phenomenal. I think, like, if memory serves, Detroit was really close. I think all that came down to kind of between Minnesota and Detroit. And I think it was ultimately like, hey, we have family in Minnesota and we want to go there together. And I think that's kind of what how it all played out in the end. But like you're looking at like how does that signing potentially change Detroit's future, even if it is just Suter or if it's Suter and Parise, like. They would have hung on
a couple more years before their inevitable crash as well, for sure. But speaking of crash, I'm going to go to bed soon here, Brett. I'm crashing out. Actually, wait, that's a younger person term for freaking out now, by the way. Crash out. Did you know that?
I did. Yes.
Yeah, I did not know that. Sometimes my because I do a lot of streaming. Sometimes my live chat say all these terms, and I really do feel old now. Crash out was one of them that someone had explained to me recently. Yeah, I can't keep up.
TikTok helps me keep up. I'm not on there as much as I was before, but keeps me in on the memes here and there.
See, I don't have TikTok. That's probably my issue. That's probably my issue.
And I don't think you can download it anymore. Like you can still access it again in the US temporarily, but I don't think you can. Like it's not at least on Apple. You can't download it from.
I mean, I like the YouTube algorithm better. So if I do my short scrolling, it's usually on YouTube. So
yeah, I have started following a lot of the people I follow on YouTube in the event that it goes away again.
It's a better algorithm. I will stand by that. I might be a little bit biased, but but anyways.
Well, the interesting thing will be like, so we're at the point now. 2 more games for the Wild tomorrow night at home against Carolina, who for some reason they usually play very well against. Like Carolina's always a really good team, but the Wild always seem to bring the game. But home game, so you never know. They have not been good on home ice this year. And they have the Islanders on Saturday, and then it's 2 weeks off. So I don't know.
4 nations.
So we may, I don't know if we'll see. Our shows will be maybe a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
The next.
I
2
will be
weeks,
streaming Four Nations coverage on this channel, by the way. Like, we'll be doing a lot, kind of like World Juniors, where I think out of the World Juniors, I think I did 8 or 9 of the 14 games. So I'm gonna aim to cover as many that aren't like Saturday night or Friday night, just because I do other streaming stuff on my other channel. But yeah, we're gonna do a ton of coverage for that as well.
Yeah, and I know the Wild got shut out last night in Boston, but I thought they actually played a pretty damn good game. Like even if you look at like the box score, like shots are pretty even, shot attempts are pretty even, expected goals are pretty even. Like the difference is Jeremy Swayman made 2 more saves than Marc-Andre Fleury did.
Yeah.
And I thought Fleury and himself in his own right played a really good game. He had some really big saves, like kind of in that first and early second period when they were a little bit on their heels before they kind of battled back. Like he was a big reason for that. He had some huge saves. So like to me, like the way they played in Ottawa was fucking dreadful.
Yeah.
Like I think they had
they looked a lot better in Boston.
Yeah, like Ottawa, they were horrible. Where I thought they looked. So I think if they can continue to kind of bring that same structure back, keep doing what you're doing. Like I think they had like something like 3.3 expected goals, which is more than what they usually have in a lot of their games. Like if you keep doing that stuff, like the goals will come. Like you're not going to get goalied every night. So I think if we see those 2 efforts, especially on home ice, they're going to need it. I'd like to see some wins going into the break, and then hopefully a chance for some of these guys to get healthy. Obviously, we talked that first Saturday back would be the 4-week timeline for Kaprizov. I think I did see the other night early in the game, Marco Rossi had like his wrist taped up before coming out of the tunnel. So I'm like, I think he's probably working through some stuff. Obviously, we know Brodin, Faber, Spurgeon have been injured. So having this 2 weeks to hopefully get these guys rested up and then come back maybe with Kaprizov and really make a push here because
except for the guys playing, but
yeah. But this
Faber's working through something that's not going to be ideal. But yeah, this term is just so weird because it's not the Olympics and it's in the middle of the season, so it's like it's just the same issues I have with like the World Cup being before the NHL season. No one's going to go 100%. I mean, maybe after one big hit's thrown, like I said last week, maybe Finland, who's kind of the underdog in this one, just like, all right, let's just play our hearts out, whatever. But like, I just can't imagine, like, it's not going to be like the Olympics at all.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll have some reaction to stuff that we'll talk about what the Wild players have done. The curious thing will be, where do these players fit in? Of course, Brodin, is he more limited with the injury? Ullmark was hurt for a while, just came back. Gus's play hasn't been as strong, so will he play? Who does Boley end up on a line with, all that stuff? So it'll be fun to kind of watch and
I'm still gonna watch. I'm still gonna watch. It's just
it is weird timing. I'm
just greedy and I want my freaking Olympic hockey back so bad. And I know it's coming, but it's just like I'm impatient. And this is just a tease.
Yeah, I think I'll take it over the All-Star game at least.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's not like the Russians try at that. So.
Dude, the All-Star, when we were growing up, they actually played, man. Like, remember, Owen Nolan picking his shot for his hat trick was one of like one of those
like maybe it feels
NHL
that
moments.
way. Maybe it feels that way because like those are more designed for kids. So like
I've gone back and watched I'm not gonna say I've watched full games, but like I've watched parts of it and I was like, this is just so much more intense than what we've seen in the last decade.
Well, and for like the deep cut Wild fans out there too, the Wild actually used to do one. I think it was like kind of preseason, like it was part of training camp. They would do, I don't remember what they called it, but basically like they would split the Wild into 2 teams, and it was basically like an all-star game. So they would do like a full-on skills competition where it's like fastest skater, hardest shot. The 2 teams are competing against each other, and then it's capped off with like a 5-on-5 scrimmage.
Nice.
I think it was over like a 2-day thing, and
that's
then
fun.
After both sessions, like you could pick, they would like group the players up, and they had like some like the minor league guys I think mixed in there too because it was like training camp. You could pick a table of like 5 guys and you could go get their autograph.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was super cool. Like as a kid, it was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. Like I got to watch like freaking Brian Ralston rip clap bombs and then go get Mark Schwinnard and like Willie Mitchell's autograph. Like it was sweet. Like
that's so cool.
It was cool stuff. So I don't know how we get that energy back. And again, maybe it was really cool because I was like 8 years old and I thought anything.
Well, and the league's just different, amazing, man. People were like smoking still in the 90s and early 2000s, right? Yeah. Like I literally remember this was like still this in like I think it was like the second to last or last season that Mika Kiprusoff played for the Calgary Flames. But no joke, got a little fresh air between between periods in Calgary, and he was right under the smoking area, having a dart himself between the second and third. No joke. And he waved up at us, and I was like, dude, goalie gear and all. Like, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
He was probably the last of that breed, but still.
Yeah. So worst case, if the Wild hopefully play some, hopefully don't, but if they play some shitty hockey, at least we'll have, at least it's not a 2-week break with no hockey. Like, at least we have a 2-week break, but still got to watch some hockey, at least for parts of it. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully Team USA, I think they're the favorite going in and still should be. Yeah, hey, roll fi. How's it going, Mark? Yeah, so excited. Hopefully the Wild can get healthy. Hopefully get some wins here. Hopefully the formations are good. And the next time we're talking, it's hopefully more about good things and not Ryan Hartman suspensions and Vinni Hinistroza waiver claims.
Yeah. Hey, Yager scored and Ovi getting close to Gretzky's record. Those are good things. Those are good things.
That's for sure.
Guys, go check out Brett's blog if you haven't subscribed to it already. I put the link in the chat. I'll do it one more time. And as always, it's in the description of the video. And you said you got your player cards up. I'll share those as well here.
Yeah, they should be up. I got those up today. A little teaser for next week. I might do it in a blog or we might do it in the analytics agenda segment. But I had a Twitter commenter today asking to compare a little bit on how the Wild's like Merrill Bogosian pair stacks up to other teams' third pairs. I might expand on that and just kind of look at where the Wild's like most common configurations of D pairs and lines and stuff rank up against everyone else's first line. And maybe we'll talk through that because there probably won't be much to talk about. So that'd be a fun one to look at as we head into the break. So that'll either be on the show and the blog or both. We'll see, but that's a little teaser for what's coming next week.
Sweet. And then, as always, check out my second channel. I'll be streaming again this weekend. Shout to anybody and everybody who came over last weekend. We had a great run of fights. I just posted a new video on my channel. If you like MMA highlights, these are literally like 10 to 12 knockouts from the regional MMA scene. None from Minnesota this week, but like, dude, Wisconsin and Minnesota, they've got some good regional fighters here, and it's cool being able to go to a lot of their shows. I haven't posted my schedule yet, but I just did a podcast on Tuesday with my friend Jay Smooth, who does a similar stuff as I do, cover combat sports. And we had some good numbers last week, and it's a big shout to all of you who support my second channel as well. Watch parties for combat sports, knockout highlights, and just betting predictions for fights, and vlogs of me visiting my dad's dog. A little something for everybody on the channel, so check that out as well. But another fun show, Brett. Last word goes to you.
Chiefs or Eagles? Who you got for the Super Bowl on Sunday?
Go Eagles. Enough of this Chiefs dominance.
I'm with him. Like, I usually hate the Eagles, but I really like Saquon Barkley, and I would like to see him get a Super Bowl because I think he deserves it. So
go Eagles. No riots, boys.
There we go. All right. See ya.